Okay, so I have to make a quick apology to Burins the Furnace Films. Link to his channel in the description. I tried, man. I tried. I could not for the life of me source a Cyclonus. I've probably driven 300 miles going from store to store trying to find a Cyclonus. And I've still yet to find him, Megatron, Jazz, or Cup in any stores. Eventually I broke down and bought him on the CMD store like 8 days ago. I paid like $20 for 3-day shipping, and he is still yet to arrive. I know your birthday is technically tomorrow, but if it came today, I still wouldn't have the time to do the review. This brings me to my next point. Please don't anyone ask me to do birthday stuff for a good while. This was a giant bag of stress. And Burins, I don't want you to feel bad about any of that. It was my uncompromising ass that got me into this mess. I am the one who wasn't willing to falter on my word. I am the one who refused to buy from scalpers. I am the one who bought the figure off a site I apparently shouldn't have trusted and paid way too much for it just to spite scalpers, at a time that wound up to be too late to do any actual good. All that dumb stuff that happened was on me, but I do need a break from it. And also, it would be nice to not get any shout-out requests for a while. I just don't want to have to worry about whether or not I'm failing someone for a little bit. Anyways, I hope a review of this figure, which is one that apparently a lot of people have been looking forward to coming a day before your birthday, is adequate. And before I get into the video proper, let's do some shout-outs. Transformers fan 4444, he's apparently been at this YouTube game longer than I have. Kelvin Goce. Kelvin Goce. Kelvin Goce? I don't know how to say that, dude. Allspark Studio, a man who knows what's up when it comes to pineapple and pizza. S&D Person, glad you're enjoying my videos. I hope to see you comment more in the future. Gamer Freddy, I have no idea how to describe your eclectic channel other than to call it eclectic. CrumpleZone, I mean, he got a Megatron before I did, he must be better at this than me. Jameson, CGI modeler and animator, and I'm just gonna say it, I just realized your icon isn't of the soldier from Team Fortress 2. Arceus Prime Convoy, the man who communicates only in thumbs up and sunglass-wearing smiley faces. ZacTFF, he talks Transformers, but he also plays that game the youth like, the one with all the dances. Megatronus Primal, another eclectic YouTube channel, stop motions, AMVs, and memes it seems. Michael's Stopmotion. Now, I can't be sure, but based on that name, I think he's a Let's Player. Solis, the young man who finds it endlessly amusing that his family was shocked by me giving him a shout out. You're a good kid. I hope your family is just as shocked the second time. On to Soundwave. This is a retool of the Siege figure, and in fact, more of one than it would initially appear. Almost every detail has been changed in some way. Ignoring the difference in paint, the surface sculpting is very different between the two in some minor and significant ways. And I suppose the easiest way to phrase it is that the greeble on the Earthrise is significantly reduced. Some of the most radical changes are in the legs. For starters, the Siege version had these humps on the knees which aren't present on the Earthrise version. The Siege also had these side flaps which are now missing, replaced with these oddly bulky protrusions that seem to have been glued on after the fact. If you don't care for them, you can probably just pop them off. The side panels on the feet are gone, and then you get around to the front of the shins, and just every single little detail is changed. Even the parts that are supposed to be similar are different. I must profess, while I'm all for show accuracy, I really prefer the design of the Siege's shins, with its knee headlights or whatever these are. They remind me of Christmas for some reason. Outside that, you are going to find that the new Soundwave still has the sleeve kibble off the Siege one, despite the fact that there is no justification for it anymore. It's basically just clogging up the arms for no reason at all, and I'm thinking about just clipping all that shit off. Soundwave also has some new faux-forming junk in the trunk, and I think he looks really bad from behind in general, with it being way too wide and that weird back hump. It makes me miss the backpack off the original. As for the new head, it has the correct eyes, and honestly I bought this on that alone, but the light piping here doesn't work as well as on the Siege's yellow version. You know me, I hate light piping, so I'm actually unsure if this ultimately doesn't bother me because I already didn't care for it, or if it makes me even more annoyed because it made a bad thing worse. To be fair, the Siege's was some of the better light piping I've ever seen, and Soundwave's visor does lend itself to mysterious shapes swirling inside the lit up section, so that is cool when it works. You'll notice that here, much like with everything else, the details are different. I can't quite tell if the shape of the head has been changed at all, but his head vents are bigger and there's generally less detail. Sadly, he's missing the cool mask cuts the original had. Like the Earthrise Prime, but less so, you will also notice that the paint on the mouth plate isn't great. It doesn't quite reach the edges, but it's also not ragged as shit like the Prime, so at least that's nice. I just realized, it looks like red paint wasn't in this Soundwave's budget because there's none on the wrists and none on the gun. Ultimately, this looks pretty much like Soundwave's show model, even more so than the original, and the Siege version already was quite accurate. Posing here is almost unchanged from the Siege. It's got a terribly wibbly knee, but that's not posing. A nice improvement is that now the shoulders are on these new hinges instead of these terrible ones. He 1, gains backwards butterfly, and 2, and even more importantly, his right arm isn't constantly trying to fall off. So posing is at least mildly improved over the Siege version, though the butt flap can really get in the way. Outside that, he's got the bog standard Siege articulation with some abnormally limited ankle tilts. Transformation. I can't help but negatively compare this to the figure that made me into the avid collector I am today. This is a completely watered-down, bastardized version of the Masterpiece Soundwave's transformation, and it isn't 1/100th as fun. It's got faux forming, it's got added parts that aren't supposed to be there, and it never quite has the moment where you know you're finished. Hell, parts of this are straight off the Siege figure, and they also managed to make those significantly less fun and satisfying too. Like the feet. The feet on the Siege Soundwave are a joy. Fast, fun, and satisfying. And while they are doing the same thing on the Earthrise, they're sickly, thin and squishy with a serious case of the Play-Doh factor. And the end result is this decent but kibbly and gappy thing. Again, my opinion of this is unfairly colored by my first Soundwave ever being one of the literal best Transformers figures of all time, third party included. It looks good, but there's not one angle of this that is uncompromised. From the exact front, there's the knobbly little button section and a large gap. From the side, there's these slots in the knee. Why does this have a T-slot in the top of the front of the knee? Then from the top, and it's just Explosion City. I had high hopes for this thing, but I come away from it pretty cold. It's basically the version with the correct eyes and the correct alt mode, with a smidge more posability, but it's just barely less compromised, and its transformation is less fun. The only reason we're buying this is because they intentionally stopped the Siege version from doing the thing they knew we wanted it to do. If I ignore the fact that I'm happy that it turns into a cassette player, then I don't know if I can say the alt mode is better. It's clearly more of a thing than the other is, but it's also more compromised. The Siege version at least had some strong angles to view it from, but no matter where you look at this thing, it's got at least a few problems. I might be being unfair to this. Broken down to its base elements, it's a well-posing figure that looks just like Soundwave in its robot mode, and it looks like Soundwave with problems in its alt mode. The transformation isn't horrible, it's just less fun than the most fun thing ever by an admittedly significant margin. At an academic level, I can say that this is pretty good, but on a personal one, I just don't feel this thing. If you want a cheap but good chug Soundwave, this is your lot. If you want something incredible though, get a knockoff Masterpiece Soundwave off eBay for literally just $10 more than this figure. The MP Soundwave has been out of print for years at this point. You can't buy the original anymore. There is no shame in getting a knockoff when you can't support the official product anymore. And that's not half of what I have to say, but it's enough of what I have to say. And if you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.